Hello, and welcome to the Talented Amateurs podcast. My name is Joe Randolph, your host, and today we have Felicia Bittle, stylist, consultant, media expert, and founder of Fabstyles based in Charlotte, North Carolina. So today we're going to be discussing passion and fashion. So let's get started. Felicia, how are you doing today? And welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having me. And I am doing amazing. I've had my cup of tea. I've said my prayer. I'm good. I'm ready to go.
All right, definitely
Yeah.
a pleasure to have you on. We go way back, from our urban league days and just being on the scene in Charlotte. And as I was telling you, as I've observed and just watched your growth, I really have grown an interest in just seeing how you've been able to cultivate this space for yourself and doing it quite well. And I think I really want to make sure we can dig into some of that. So maybe let's get started and just tell us who you are, where you're from, and then how did you get started in fashion? Because you were in accounting, still in accounting, but you transitioned to fashion. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then how did you get started into this field, and how's that transition been going?
Okay. Um, okay. So I am originally from Charlotte. They call us unicorns now because no one is originally from Charlotte that's living in Charlotte anymore. So
This is
I
true.
am a unicorn. I am. Let me be honest with you. So my background, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. Some will say a lot. So growing up, I always knew I wanted to be, I was always raised that than what my parents had done, right? And that's not saying anything bad. It was, my mother was always focused on, you're going to college, you're going to get an education, you're going to learn, you go to school to learn, you're going to be more and do more than me and your father did. So that was kind of always ingrained in me. And what I thought I wanted to do, where I thought I was going was business and finance and accounting, because as I was growing up, you went three ways, right? You either went legal, medical, or business. Those were the money areas. So pick your battle, pick the one and stay focused. And I was great at business. From a young child, I was smart. I'm still smart. But business and math and all of that stuff was good. I did that very well. And so I thought, we're gonna do well in school. We're gonna get a scholarship. My parents also ingrained in me, you're gonna have to get a scholarship. We can't afford to pay. I guess I'm giving all this background to say these are the things that formulate our thinking and why we go the direction we originally go. And as I'm matriculating through school, I'm getting my scholarships, I'm getting good grades, I'm doing well in math and business. And I thought that's where I wanted to go in life. Got a full ride to North Carolina A&T, accounting major, everything was great. But as we grow up and we realize that it's not money, it's not even our career that makes us happy, right? It's our passions, it's what we get excited about. I don't know how many times I woke up in the middle of the night, Joe, dreading that I had to get up at 8 to go to that job. And even though I was doing well and I was making good money and people knew my name, because that's who we are, we're perfectionists. We're going to do a good job in whatever we do. But I was not happy. I was job hopping, trying to find that niche because I didn't put all this work into it. We're going to have to make this work.
Right.
Ugh, I was miserable. And so what happened was, I don't know if you remember Millette Granville. She worked at Wells Fargo for a while,
Yep. I remember
and she
that.
gave this seminar around talents versus gifts. And she said a lot of times we go out into the world based upon our talents. Your talents are what you're trained in, what you may be good at, what someone teaches you, and you educate yourself on, right? We're great. I'm accounting, I'm finance, I'm all that. But your gifts are those things that are innate to you, what you truly enjoy doing, what maybe as a child you did, but it was kind of shunned as, well, that's cute, but you're not going to make money off of it. No one does that. So when she did that, she said to me, what are your talents, Felicia? What is it that you enjoy doing? And she was like, go back to your childhood, just go and sit and think. And I remember sitting on my father's bed on Saturday night, every night. And we would go through his closet because he would go through and pull out what he's wearing to church the next day. And he would sit me down. He was like, we're going to go top to bottom. We would pull out the ties, the jackets, the shirts, everything. That was our quality time, but I loved it, Joe. Then he would say, all right, go to your closet and pick out what you want to wear. Show me. And we would do the same thing with me. That's not fitting right. Ask your mama to hem it. Ask your mama to take it in. Does that handkerchief pocket square go with that tie? The socks, Joe. And when I sat there and thought about that, I was like, this is what you love. You love dress. Well, I didn't know it was styling at the time. You
Right.
love fashion and you love dressing up. And even when I look back in college years, I was the girl that would bring 3 and 4 suitcases because the girls in my crew would be like, well, Felicia got something for me to wear. Let's go to Felicia.
Right.
What do you think about this? And it's just crazy, Joe, how when you kind of sit back and think about all the things you loved to do growing up, you just didn't think that it was something you can make a living in. But now you hear the term stylist, you hear styling consultant, fashion stylist, personal stylist, all over the place. At one time, they were secrets, right? And only people with money had stylists.
Right.
But celebrities on the red carpet, or even CEOs, people in business all over the world have stylists because we are an asset. So that's kind of how it switched for me in kind of getting out of myself and moving beyond what I thought I was going to do and how I thought I was going to live, and transition more into fashion and styling.
So was your dad was he stylish as well? Not knowing that, but some people can just dress, right? Some people
Right.
just look good in clothes and they just like to dress and they can put things together. Was your dad, was he, could he just put things together and just always call it fly back in the day?
Yes. He was my father. So I tell people my father chewed concrete and spit out nails. Like he's a country boy raised on a farm.
Right.
But the way he grew up, church was the be all end all to style. Like you looked your best going to church. I know it's a little different now, but you put on your best and you showed up and you showed out. So his money went to looking great to go to church. But he would always put these colors and these textures. My father was the only one I knew that had a velvet jacket and textured ties, and his shoes were always polished, and he'd had different colors. So yeah, he was a very stylish man. And my mother was stylish, but he kind of went to another level with it.
Got you.
Yeah.
You touched on this in terms of someone working with a stylist. A lot of people that you mentioned think that I need a bunch of money to be able to have a stylist. Talk to us more about that, and maybe it gets into a little bit of how your business is structured and how you've been able to carve out what this looks like. But talk to us about what does your client base look like, and how do you advise people on some of the nuances of why they may bring you in to help style them?
Mhm. You are absolutely right. People do think it takes a lot of money for stylists, and I think with any profession, though, the more experience and credibility that person has, their prices may increase accordingly to that. So my rates may be a little higher than someone else, but my credibility and my background and experience supports that. But it's not so expensive that you can't do or can't have a stylist. My client base, listen, I have everyone from children. And when I say children, I mean young teenagers who parents are like, I don't have the energy or the time to shop for them, to take them out, to style them. Can you do that for us? I have CEOs, directors that have hired me to help find suits and get things tailored. Stay-at-home moms, I have those as well. They're handling home, the kids, the husband. They're like, Felicia, can you just go out and pick me some comfortable things to wear? But you know what's funny, Joe? During this remote living, my client base has almost tripled. Because now you have women, and kind of what we were talking about, women and men. I don't need to be sitting at home in a suit, and all that's in my closet are suits and dresses. And I'm at home. I'm now working remote. I may be on camera. I may not. So how do we switch my closet out? So now my business is at a whole different scale now. I've gotten more business in the last year and a half than I had when I was kind of just hitting the pavement and going to see folks. But my client base ranges from men, women, teenagers, kids, all that. You got to understand what styling is. Styling isn't necessarily always about making me look great for an event. Styling is, I don't have the time to go shopping on my own behalf, but I need things. I don't know for my personality, my skin tones, my shape, what are the best items for me to wear. I am your styling expert. I look at your personality and I look at your shape and I ask you, what is it that you want? And that's what I help you get to. So
Right.
I think a lot of people just assume that it's about making me look good for an event. And it's so much more than that. It's a
Right.
convenience to a certain extent.
Got you. And that's a great point. And and I think you talk about styling the uniqueness of you, right? I think that is what you and talk to us more about that, because I did want to ask you, like, how do you, as you have a client, how do you determine or how do you assess what may work for one client may not work for other? How do you go about that process? And you touched on it a little bit, because everyone is different, and some of it is you being able to build that rapport with them. So I'm assuming you're not styling them the first time you meet them. You're probably learning their nuances, their style, what they like, their personality. So tell us more about this styling the uniqueness of you, and what does that mean?
Okay. I will be honest, Joe, when I first started, I was taking any and every client that called. You know, you want to try to make that money and build that brand. And it took me a minute to realize that I need to understand the client more in the beginning than trying to figure it out along the way. I was just so eager to book a client that if you call me, all right, we're good, we'll make it work. But now I do it differently. I actually sit down for a consultation. It's just a 30-minute consultation. I'm not sending you anything. I'm not doing anything. We're just having a conversation. And for me, it's just as important as the business owner, as the stylist, to make sure I'm comfortable with the client that's coming forth. I don't take on clients anymore just because you give me a call or send me an email. And in that 30 minutes, I pretty much can tell whether or not I feel like we can work together. My energy is at a completely different level now. I know when someone is going to nitpick me to death or try to negotiate me to death or act or just make it to where this isn't a good relationship. And I have a right as a business owner to say, no, this isn't going to work. Or yes, I'm excited, let's proceed. So if we get past the consultation, I send my client a questionnaire first. And the questionnaire itself are the first portion of it is, just the demographics, academics, where you from, your weight, your size, hair color, eye color, things of that nature. I put that in there because it's always amazing to me how people think they look and the size they think they are and what color they think their eyes. It's just crazy. And I do that so that when we're having a conversation, I'm like, well, you say here you're an 8, but I'm looking at you and I'm going to take your measurements and they either are smaller or larger. But it's just, I've learned to ask those questions. But then I flip it and ask other questions like, who are your style icons? And some people don't even never even ask themselves that question. Well, what do you like on you? What colors do you like? What parts of yourself don't you like? Some people don't like showing their arms, or they feel like they have a heavy midsection, all these things. And we meet and talk about it. Well, now we're meeting virtually, but we meet and talk about it. And that's another opportunity for me to build a rapport. Because here's the thing, Joe, you want to build credibility with that person. And most of the time I'm referred to someone, it's almost like a barber or a hairstylist.
Right.
They get their clients based upon referrals. Have you worked with Felicia? She'll be great to help you. But just because someone refers you, that doesn't necessarily mean you and I will work together on this
Right.
part. Because it's a partnership, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not just going to be like, Joe, I need you to be wearing Prada, Gucci, and Louis, and we're going to make that work. No, it's about getting to know Joe and building a confidence in me that Joe feels like he can open up and share with me where he's trying to go with his style. You may want to be comfortable, and how we talked about sweatshirts, and I just want to be comfortable and I want to exude this feeling of confidence, and I'm most confident when I'm comfortable. So how can we make that a tailored look for me without going and being someone else? I'm
Absolutely.
learning your personality. That's all it is. So when I talk about styling the uniqueness of you, I'm not going to style Felicia like I style Beyonce. I mean, I may style Beyonce one day, but when you look at a Beyonce or a Rihanna, they're both very powerful women, but their styles are completely different, and so you would style them differently. Everyone deserves to have their own footprint in this. My job is not to have cookie cutter clients where they're all wearing the same look. They all look the same. Have you ever looked at someone and thought, "Oh, I could tell who did their hair," or "Oh, I can tell who they worked with," because their style is so cookie cutter for everyone that they deal with.
Right.
So your style is your style, and your personality is your DNA, and just like a fingerprint, everyone has differences. So that's what I do.
Gotcha. And they have to trust you too, right? Because
They do.
I'm sure that you're getting them out of their comfort zone and what they typically may wear or the colors they may wear. And, you know, they have to be able to trust and get out of their comfort zone. And I'm sure that's hard for some people. You know, somebody like myself, I wear blue, black, and gray. Those are my colors because I know they look good on me, and I can dress them up and down. But it's, you know, I'm gradually trying to get out of like not just being in all dark colors, but they have to trust you. And how does that, how have you worked in terms of people that do push back and when you style them and they may not agree with it? How does that work for you? And how do you adjust to those types of situations?
I've learned, now that's a great question, Joe. What I've learned is that you have to kind of take people slowly. It's a slow incline. So even if I worked with someone like you and these are the colors that you normally choose, I may still pull those colors, but I may also pull that style in a different color and say, "Hey, I know you like the cut of this jacket and you usually wear it in black. Let's take a look at it in red. Let's take a look at it in purple. Let me show you what it looks like and how we can style it up." And then what I've learned is that sometimes people have these aha moments because they've been so set on certain things, they've never opened up the possibility to see something else. And then they'll see, now this is my beautiful moment, when they come out the dressing room and they have it on and they're like, "Oh, I didn't even think I could wear something like
Right.
this. I didn't even see myself." So I've learned not to come in with all these grandiose ideas. I'm going to put her in red. I'm going to put her in yellow. I've tried to do a little bit at a time to make them comfortable with the move. And then as they get comfortable, then they're like, "Okay, Felicia, I don't even want to go to that anymore. Can you please bring me some new and different stuff?" Because now they trust me. So that's how I build that. Now, if I tend to get a lot of pushback, my first rule when styling a client, and I'll tell them this, we don't say no to things. What we do is we take a look at it, we try it on, we talk through it. I'm a big believer that you don't just look at something and say no to it, because there's so many things I've worn that I just did not think were going to look right, and you put it on and you're like, "This is perfect." And my second rule is this is a two-way communication. So if you're uncomfortable, talk to me and tell me why, and then we can address that. Because some of the stuff is, most of the issues that people have are superficial. I was told because of my skin tone I can't wear these colors, or I was told because of my body shape I'm supposed to stay in these certain things. And I'm here as their expert to say, "Well, no, that's not necessarily true, and let me show you why." And that's what makes people comfortable with stepping out of their comfort zones.
And it always goes back to when they always say, the clothes don't make the man make the clothes. And it's really about how much you're confident in. And also you have to be real and honest with yourself, because you may see something that's on someone, it won't look the same on you because clothes fit different, they lay different on people. So I think I'm sure that's a hard conversation where you have to be, you know what, yeah, it looked good on Denzel, but I don't think you can pull that off. And I think we have to always go through that, like, can I really pull this off? Because that's always that ever ending battle. And people who also don't like to take style risk, they put those same risk on you and be like, "Well, why you got that on? It doesn't look right," because they wouldn't wear it. And so it's really about how do you make the clothes work for you versus the clothes working for you, as you know, and so forth. So it's good to hear. One of the questions, one of the things I did want to ask, and you kind of talked about it with COVID, how are you shifting and changing your business as it relates to COVID and making these adjustments? Because this is a people business, right? So what adjustments are you making? And have you noticed, and you mentioned some people are moving to more of a casual, or they're on camera, so they still have to be dressy, but it may look different. Talk to us about, some of the dynamics that you faced over the year with COVID in your business, and what adjustments are you making in terms of people as their habits are changing and their style preferences are changing?
Actually, I mean, I don't know if you could say you love it. I'm enjoying this moment with us being quarantined. I feel like so much was hustle and bustle and move and shake and going and coming, and you didn't really get to sit in the moments. What I think this has allowed for me and all my clients is we can be on a Zoom call, you're at your home, you're relaxed, we're having really good conversations about where you're going and where you need to be versus me saying, okay, this is for strictly 30 minutes and I got to run. Or that client saying, okay, I'm just coming from work, let's talk. And then they're running. There was engagement, but it really wasn't mental focus. So this time, whether you're using Zoom, Teams, or all these other virtual platforms, I think it has allowed people to just say, whew, like just to breathe and let's have a good conversation and talk. A lot of what has increased for me are wardrobe walkthroughs where we'll be virtually in someone's closet and we go through their closet with ease. Before, that really wasn't a big thing. Before it was, Felicia, I need A, B, C, and D. Can you go get A, B, C, and D? Let me try it on and see how it works. But now people are like, they're budget conscious, right? Why am I going to go out and necessarily buy so many things if I got things in my closet that may work, but I'm not sure if they can work? So can you walk through my closet with me to do that? So that's a part of my business that has increased. Also, people that are getting ready for work remotely now, and I'm talking about big time people, CEOs, directors, managers. We have conversations about color. A lot of my clients, they hear me talking about color, but they don't really get it, right? But now, and I know you get it too, Joe, now that we're virtual, you got to look at your colors and what you're wearing and how that contrasts to your wall, your paintings, your skin tones. Is your lighting right? Joe, I'm having conversations about lighting. Like, okay, where's your ring light? You need to like, it's those colors are too dark. So you're gonna have to pick another room. I hear too much vibration and background. So maybe we need to position your office somewhere else. I'm having those conversations. And why that suit that you love so much, that color doesn't work with the virtual background that you have. And now that people can see themselves, they get it. So that type of business has increased.
It's
And
almost like you're advising if they're going to be on camera, right? Because those are the same things where you shouldn't wear stripes if you're going to be on camera or avoid light colors. So that's interesting, and I think it's how you're shifting. So keep going. I just thought that was an interesting point there. I just noticed that. Okay.
and I didn't even realize you could make business off of that. And and also I put up I'm getting into purging of closets. So now I guess Joe, with us being I guess with us being at home and now we're
Yes.
able to focus and look at things. The end of last year, Joe, I kid you not, I put a post on about, hey, we're getting ready for the new year, purge your closets. And these are some of the steps you could take. I got hired by 4 different people to say, hey, Felicia, 2 of them were virtual. The other 2 wanted me there because they felt like they couldn't do it if I wasn't there to kind of force them to do it. But purging of closets is a big business. We actually walk through each and every item in your closet and we say, yay, nay, maybe. And the nays we give to a charity. I think that does great for people's souls and spirits to say, I'm not
Right.
just throwing it out, I'm giving it to someone else who can benefit. So that's also increased. And my actual styling where I'm actually shopping, that has fallen off more compared to the other ones because people are just in a different state of mind. I'm not going out here to spend a whole lot of money anymore. Let me first look at what I have. How can we make that work? And then if we need to fill in the gaps, then yeah, then I want you to shop. I want you to bring me some clothes and then we'll try it from there. I have some clients that I had one client hire me for a commercial and she was saying, Felicia, I know I got some pieces in my closet with tags on it. Can you take a look as I try on different things? So she would come out in a pair of pants and a shirt, and I would ask, well, do you have this type of bracelet? Do you have these type of earrings? She's like, I think I do. And she would go in her closet and we would actually style in the moment like that. So those are some of the things that have done great for me. And I'm loving it, Joe, because I don't really have to go nowhere. I'm just helping folks out with their style right from home. So
So
I'm enjoying it.
the purge is something that is hard for everyone because we like to keep stuff, right? And that was something I started to try to commit to a few years ago. And it wasn't just about the purge, it's about how do I declutter my life, right? How
Declutter.
to declutter your life. But it's hard, right? I know I'm gonna wear these overalls one day. Why I'm gonna throw them away? I know I'm gonna wear them again. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
No, you're not. And so I've kind of come to the rule where if I haven't worn it in 6 months, I probably won't wear it again. Depending on what it is. Coats, those things are a little different, but I've tried to do more of that. And I think it's actually, we talk about running and having that running as kind of therapeutic. Getting decluttered is also as therapeutic as well, because it helps you feel like you got space. And I had to, I'm a jeans guy, so when I find a pair of jeans I like, I
Yeah.
buy a lot of them, particularly
Mhm.
if I and I had to come to a realization that you can't wear all these jeans.
And you
Get
only tend to wear your favorite ones.
exactly.
I mean, you can have 30 jeans, fly jeans, but you tend to wear your 5 favorite
Yeah.
every time. That's everybody. I kid you not.
And
Yeah.
so it's therapeutic, and I've started to do more of that, like especially now, with the only exception, and I'm not throwing my Jordans away. I'm not throwing. I'm a sneakerhead, so I'm not throwing any of that away. But I've started to learn, as I declutter, how to manage that, and understanding the benefits of it. And decluttering is a big business too, because you got
Yeah.
the Netflix episodes called Tidying Up. People coming in and helping you do that. So very good. So it's good to hear how you're making these adjustments, because COVID has been, like you said, it's a learning experience, and I think there's things you can derive from that will help enhance or cultivate your business, because you're thinking about different ways in the way to do business. Just like before COVID, a lot of people didn't think that we could have everybody work from home, or
Correct.
we need
Yes.
to travel across the world just for a 2-day meeting. No, we can do this
No.
virtually, or we can have people work from home. So it's disrupting business. And those that can adapt will see the benefits of this over the next few years.
Mhm.
So glad to hear that you're making those adjustments. Tell me about the first time. So, you're doing a lot of, great work, and you're making these adjustments. What was that first client like when you first had your first client? Was that, and how did you know that, all right, I can do this? Talk to us about that first client that you work with, and how was that experience?
Lord bless her soul. Bless, because I look back on that moment like, oh, I was a fish out of water. I didn't know what I was doing. Um, so the issue was I was working at the bank. I was living what I thought I wanted to live as far as career and making money and, volunteering. But I was having those episodes where I wasn't happy and I couldn't figure out if it was the job or if it was me, whatever it was. So I've always enjoyed fashion. I had taken that class with Millette and I was trying to just figure out what it was. And when I kind of thought back on it, I was like, but how do I get into that? How do I do it? And it's me being a perfectionist, I'm on the computer, I'm making notes, I got journals, I'm trying to draft up business plans and all these things to fit, organize it. And at a certain point, I had to say, you're just going to have to do it. But how do you do it? And so there was this young lady named Miranda, who was at that time, I think Miranda was either the president or vice president of our organization. And we had a big awards ceremony. And I overheard her talking about, oh, what am I going to wear? I don't know what to do. And I thought to myself, something flicked. And I said, this could be my chance to see if this is something I really wanted to do. And she needs the help. So I approached her and I said, I'm not charging you anything. I'm just trying to see, I'm trying to put my big toe in the water to see if this is even something I like. Would you be willing to work with me? And Miranda, being Miranda, was like, absolutely, Fee. They call me Fee. Absolutely, Fee. Just tell me what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And Joe, I was so lost. I didn't even know where to begin. But it's like trial by fire, right? You don't know
Absolutely.
how to grow or to learn until you do it.
Right.
So we got her looking amazing, but it took a couple of iterations for me of, you're going to have to learn how to take someone's measurements, Felicia. You can't just rely on what they say. Because originally I was just taking, she said she was this weight, this size. I just went with it. And then I would bring her the clothing and they wouldn't fit. And that's when it kind of clicked to me. You're going to learn to take people's sizes. You're going to learn not to just take everything at face value. I had to take a class on skin tone because her skin tone was a little darker. And the colors I wanted to put on her when she would try them on did not work. And so it was stuff like that. And Miranda's look was so kind of bohemian and chic. She wasn't you learn people's style. She wasn't a girly girl, but she was like this really eclectic woman. So she had a beautiful breastplate and shoulders. You learn how to look at people and style them accordingly to make them look their best. But for anyone, because I get that question a lot, like, how did you make the transition? I just took a chance, asked someone, would they let me style them? You will be surprised how many people are out there rooting for you and wanting you to succeed. And Miranda was like, yeah, if you want to go shopping and bring me stuff, hey, do it. I learned about budgets. I learned about budgeting my time and what I'm charging versus the amount of work I did, because I did a lot of work for Miranda, but I was scared of after Miranda, because I know I told her it was free, but after her and subsequent clients, I lowballed myself so bad, Joe, just because I was so scared that people wouldn't pay for my services. But she taught me as well that this is a lot of work and you should be paid accordingly for it. And the people that are going to want you will pay you accordingly, and they won't try to negotiate, barter, or talk you down. So that's kind of how we got into it. But God bless her, because we went through a couple of iterations.
Right.
Yeah. But I
Awesome.
mean, but Joe, out of that, I also learned for anybody else that you take an L sometimes on what you're doing. You got to learn that it's not necessarily a failure, it's a challenge and it's a lesson learned. Oh, I didn't get the right size. I trusted what she told me. No, the lesson out of that is bring your measuring tape, pull her correct size, and then when you go out, you're actually shopping to that. So it's all been lessons learned.
Awesome. That's a good point. And one of the things I'm curious is, as you think about that experience, what advice would you give somebody that's particularly to pursuing their passion? It may not necessarily be in fashion, but just as you think about your journey in pursuing your passion, and betting on yourself, what would you advise that person, particularly if you were advising your younger self, right? Youth is always wasted on the young, and knowing what you know now, what advice would you give somebody that's looking to get into their passion and betting on themselves, and what would you tell them? What were some of the things that you learned, or some of the nuggets you learned, that you would advise and provide them?
Oh, that's a great question. The very first would be to trust your gut, to trust yourself. So many times I wanted to do something and I felt like, oh, I'm not going to do well at it. Oh, I don't know enough about it. Oh, no one else is doing this. I don't see people that look like me doing this. You have to learn to trust your gut, not to sleep on your dreams. Because if nothing else during this time, when I get on TikTok and I'm seeing everyone live their creative passions and things like that, you have to trust that at the end of the day, you're going to be where you're supposed to be. But you got to believe. You got to remove the naysayers. You got to quit trying to get everyone's validation in on what you're about to do. If you want to do it, go do it. And maybe what I probably would have done a little differently now that I look back is maybe I would have reached out to a mentor or saw somebody that was kind of doing what I was doing. But I was the type of person where I didn't want to ask for help. And maybe that's also a lesson. It's not a sign of weakness, it's not a sign of you not knowing something, it's you looking to learn and how to do it well. Don't be scared to find someone who can help champion, help support, help mentor you. So maybe they can help you avoid some of the pitfalls that you go through. But I would tell them that. And I will also say, because I did write this down, it's okay not to be perfect. I am so good about, okay, this is what I'm also a project manager, so I'm good about recognizing the problem, creating scenarios, how do we get there, what are milestones, all these things to try to get perfect before I hit the button to go. And sometimes, no matter how much you do, no matter how much research you go with, no matter what the person that's in the industry you want to go to is doing, that works for them, but that may not work for you. When
Absolutely.
I first started out, people were like, "Oh, you should be doing a blog. Oh, you should be doing this type of styling. You should work with these type of clients." And I was trying to do all of that, Joe, when I had to take a step back and say, "Felicia, trust yourself. What is it that you want to do?" Because when you decide that, then you can focus on it and you'll do well with it. It was me trying to do everything that everybody else wanted me and thought I should do, that I was failing at. So that's what I would like to tell. That's what I tell folks. It's okay. You're not going to be perfect, and that's okay. You learn your lesson and you go to live another day.
Talk to us about failure. You mentioned sometimes you have to take a L. And I think, failure is something that it's not a negative thing. It actually allows you to continue to recalibrate. Talk to us about failure and how do you embrace that and how do you learn from it?
So failure, me and my perfectionist attitude, I've gotten a lot better. I've learned to not look at it as failure. That's what I had to do. I had to look at it and say, oh, this didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. Oh, how can I fix that? Or what can I do about it? And I also say this, when you build rapport and trust with your clients, I've been harder on myself than my clients are on me. Felicia, we know your work. We know what you can do. This didn't work out. Okay. Well, I'll see you in another week with some new stuff and we'll make it work. That's what also building rapport does. You got to give yourself a break. Have I ever not gotten someone to where they needed to be? No. But it may have taken me a couple of more times than it usually does. But I have to, when I show up confident all the time. So even when I'm like, oh, that didn't look right, I'm like, you know what? That ain't really your color. You know what? That fit, that ain't gonna work. And you push it off, right? You don't sit in it, because if you sit in it, they're gonna sit in it. You leave it alone, you move on, and then you give them something else. But when I first started, I would go home, I would cry. Like, I can't believe you did that with your client. But that's when, after so many times, you just realize, hey, it's not perfect. And I'm not perfect. I wasn't
Right.
meant to be. It's lessons to be learned out of it.
Absolutely. How do you continue to stay in, there's always the evolution and the continuous for growth and development. How do you do that as a stylist? I'm always curious how people continue their growth and development plans, and you have to do that. So what are you doing to continue to stay in front of your development?
I'm actually, I always take inventory of what I want every year. So towards the end of the year, of the prior year, and then going into the first year, what are the things that I enjoyed about what I was doing? What am I seeing that people are doing differently? We're on these fire sticks and all these apps, and there's so many cool things people are doing. And I'm looking at that. I'm looking at fashion books. I'm looking at fashion magazines, and I'm seeing trends. And it comes back always, no matter what's going on in the world, it comes back always to what am I enjoying and where do I want to go? How can I grow more? What can I do more? And so this time around, I realized that while I enjoy styling, where I'm going out and personal shopping, that's really not what I want the bulk of my business to be anymore. I'm building a brand. So there's different facets to the brand. Personal styling is one. But you know what I realized I enjoy as well was teaching folks about why what we look like matters. And there's a huge market for that. Dressing for success, how to dress for the job you want, how to dress to get the reaction from the audience you want. And I enjoyed teaching, Joe. I did not realize I enjoyed having conversations and helping people get to where they need to be to get the reactions that they want. So now that's becoming a big part of my business. I am now doing that virtually. I just did some things for some non-for-profits, where I'm talking to students at colleges about, I know we're in this world now where you do so much with social media, but when you go to talk to someone, let me tell you what they think about you when they first see you. And those are candid conversations. So there's that. And then the other piece I'm getting into is, this is a nurturing piece for me. I'm getting into community service. And I was recently asked to come and talk to some women who have been homeless, but they are transitioning back into the workforce, and how to talk to them about why what they look like matters, what they could wear, where they can get it for a reasonable price, things of that. So I'm working with organizations on that side as well, where I'm not necessarily getting paid, but it's fulfilling something in my spirit. So every year and towards the beginning of a new year, I'm like, what is it that's going to fulfill my passion? Because I never want to get back to where I was doing something for money and I was miserable. So
Awesome.
that's what I do.
Now, I'm big into looking at cultures, right? I'm organizational development background, and how different cultures shift and adapt. And as I've moved from the South to out West, and now moving back east to Northeast to DC, I'm always curious: do you see any trends around culture and how people dress? Where probably in Charlotte, it may be a little different, but out west, it's more casual, but some dressy. Have you noticed anything as you work with clients, maybe in different regional locations, where there may be nuances in how you've had to adjust and understanding the different markets?
So I haven't run into that per se. I've run into age differences where people that are in college now, they have this totally different idea of how they should look and what they should wear going into workforce versus people that are older than me, right? My parents' generation and what they feel like we should be wearing and how we should be looking. And then people in our generation. So what I've noticed is there's a consistency among age groups across regions. And those are what I tend to have to kind of address more than anything. Because college students are college students, whether they're in Midwest, Southeast, Northeast. How am I going to get this job? And what do I need to look like for it? So that's what I encounter more with the work that I do.
Got you. Okay. And now I'm always curious of that. I see that, and I even had to adjust culturally moving from a bank environment, right, to more technology where
Oh, well, profession. That's a good point.
yeah,
Profession.
it's
Yeah.
just a little bit more laid back. And I do see that with when you get into more junior employees versus some that are a little bit more senior. And I was coaching some folks. We had to go and do some readouts to some of our executive leadership, and they wanted to like, I'm gonna put a suit, let's put the ties on and all this. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing
I'm
that.
like, because at the end of the day, it's all about what the acumen is all they're gonna care about, right? And especially when I see folks show up in shorts and flip flops and hoodies, I'm gonna dress just like them because all they're gonna remember is what we said. They're not gonna remember how we look. If we go in and we don't say the right thing or we're not giving the right updates, then that may factor into some feedback we may get. So I think it's to your point. It's some of that is generational. Some of it is based on the culture. So
Well,
very good.
I think you make a good point though about industry though, because the way I talk to accounting students may be different than the way I talk to techies. Accounting is still a very conservative and still old boy network, so they want you to look a certain way. Where a lot of like a Google or Amazon, some of these companies are like, we just want you to come in and do a good job. We don't really care about whether you got on a suit or slacks or khakis. So sometimes it is about the industry as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I'm in the clothes. I like fashion, and like I
I
mentioned earlier,
did.
I'm a sneakerhead too, and I like suits, so it's that balance. And I noticed that just being here in the Bay Area, totally different style than when I go to Seattle, Redmond, where it's more all birds and jeans and and raincoats. And so it's just interesting how some of that plays out. Who's harder to work with, men or women?
Women.
Okay,
Women, absolutely. Men are so easygoing. They're just like, hey, just have me looking good, have me looking right, and bring it in. And women are, they're very I don't know. I think women compete with each other so much. I saw such and such wearing this. Do you think I could wear something like that? I like that color. I like that designer. I like this. Can I wear that? It becomes more of, it's almost like they have visually what they want, or they've seen their girl wear it, or they've seen their superstar celebrity crush wear it, and they're just like, yeah, I want to look exactly like that. I feel like men are more um, blank canvases. They just, at the end of the day, they just want to look good. They're not really concerned about looking like bruh man over here. I want my style. I want my individuality. Just make me look good.
got you.
So women are
Okay.
so much harder.
Good stuff. So as we kind of start to wrap up, tell us about next year or this year. Obviously, what are some of the big initiatives that you have geared up for coming into this year, and that you're excited about?
So I just partnered with two other stylists, Sonia Barnes and Hayde Robinson, and we are actually going to start a podcast. So that's a really big deal for me. So when we're talking about growth and maturity, I'm like, when we kind of were having a conversation about our friend Ebony, and how trying to get out there so people can really get to know you. People know my work, but they don't really know me. So it's kind of hard for me to put myself out there, but this is going to push that. This is going to be more than just academics and knowing fashion and stylists about my rapport with people and kind of giving some of who I am out there. And that's a big deal for me because I'm very private. So it's a big deal, but I'm challenging myself. And in this virtual world, I think if I don't switch that mentality or shift, I'm going to wind up losing potential opportunities for that.
Got it.
The second thing that I am doing more of community service and doing more of my Dress for Success seminars. I want that to be a big focal point for me going forward. I want to go into more organizations. I want to do more with students, um, people who are trying to transition into this new world, our new norm. I know people get tired of hearing that word, but it's something new and we're trying to adjust to it. And last but not least, I recently started an endowment at North Carolina A&T in memory of my grandmother, because this is also that spiritual part of me. I am going to start getting more out there around fundraising around that. It is to help students get to and from school, get to and from home, and provide emergency housing for students. I think this COVID was an eye opener for me when a lot of people that are professors at A&T or on campus were trying to figure out what are they going to do with their students because it shut down immediately, right?
Right.
I didn't even realize we had homeless students. Like that was an eye opener for me. And what are we going to do with them? Because not everybody can afford to get to and from. Not everybody can afford computers, all these things. So I wanted to do something for that. So I'm trying to do more getting pushing Felicia because
Right.
getting out there, and even this podcast is a lot for me, Joe. I was just like, what am I going to talk about? What are we going to do? People don't want to hear nothing about me. Like I had all these thoughts, but then I was like, nah, I know, Joe, this will be
Yeah.
cool.
They
And
want
this
to
is,
hear from you. They want to hear
yeah,
from you.
and
But
this is my authentic self, right?
you're a media darling. Every time I turn around, you're on the news. Like, how are you not
Joe, you
comfortable in front of the camera, right?
I'm really not. Look, Joe, here's a fun secret. When they would release those recordings, I wouldn't watch them. And I would watch them. And if I did watch them like 3 weeks later, I would turn the volume down because I didn't want to hear myself speak. Like people think they know, you don't know.
Wait a
You don't.
second. Don't you? Is it like isn't an ongoing segment that you have? Okay. I mean, that's amazing.
Because it's amazing when we're in that moment, we can turn it on just like that. And then when we get to our little cubby holes and close the door to our homes, I'm like, I'm gonna post it, but I'm not gonna look at it. And when
Awesome.
I do look at it, I'm gonna turn the volume down. I don't want to hear myself speak. It's crazy,
Oh
Joe.
my God, Felicia. I'm like, you're a media darling now. Every time I turn around, you're on the news, you're doing a segment, you're doing this on the news, and come to
People be
find out
like,
you
oh, that was me. That was me. I don't remember what I said or what I did really, but yep, that was me. But these types of things are forcing me to get
good.
to move beyond that. So yeah,
Got
yeah.
you. It's always good to get out of that comfort zone because that's where the growth happens and where you can continue to cultivate. Definitely looking forward to the podcast. And I think you just did something with, you said Sonia.
And
Um,
Hay, Sonia Barnes and Hayde Robinson, they are based here in Charlotte, so they are
okay.
also stylists here.
Tell us about the podcast, so we can tune in because I think is it going to be based on how you guys did a breakdown of Michelle Obama style. Okay,
Yeah.
tell us about the podcast. You can't just throw that in there and not
Okay.
get us glued in and we not give
I
the
look,
details.
Joe, I am so excited about this. So, first of all, there's not too many African American panels or podcasts where people are talking about fashion, especially based out of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Right.
Um, what we are going to do is have touch on fashion in a series of topics, but we want to do it a little differently. I don't want it just to be us talking about, oh, what's the new fashion for the fall, what colors are in. We want to actually relate that fashion to, so let me give an example. So when we talked about the evolution of style of Michelle Obama, we talked about not just the fashion, but we also talked about how she was in the beginning and what her style looked like and how did it change over time. We want to have like these in-depth conversations about style and fashion and why we feel like certain people wear or rock certain looks the way that they do. And we get people have been chiming in. Do you like her style? Do you really think it was all that? How does media portray how we look out there? Like those are the conversations. Why do Black women look a certain way in power up positions? And why don't they try to spice it? All these things that come in. We talk about culture and gender and race. I want it to be more than just about what does she have on. So that's what we're going to do.
Awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to that. What's the name of the podcast?
So that's what we're doing. I just released a social media contest because we couldn't come up with an agreement on the name. So we're holding a contest for our viewers and people out there. to kind of have them go look at the podcast and then make some suggestions on names for us.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what our new contest is. Because I have no clue, Joe. You know I didn't go into marketing.
Right.
So
But you are in marketing, you're in branding, you're helping people
that's
brand. So
true.
you are doing it. So good
Thank you.
stuff. No, I love that. And you definitely love all the things that you're doing and the evolution and really the journey, right? Because I always say the journey is the reward. People look at, and this is why I think it's important for us to highlight people that are doing well in their passion in their craft, because and bring these stories to light, because people see, they see Felicia breaking
The
down
finished
Michelle
product.
Obama, but they don't understand the journey, which
Yeah.
is helps you build these building blocks along the way. So when they see that finished product, well, it's not a finished product because we're going to continue to grow, we're going to continue to evolve. But when they see now that you're able to sustain success, that's the difference between getting to success and sustaining success, and being able to do that. They think it just happened overnight, but no, this has been a journey over 10,
It's a journey.
15, 20 years, right? And it
Right.
started it started with you and your dad picking out church putting out your church outfits, which is
It's,
old
it's,
school. That's
it's
old school
old
black right
school.
there.
Yeah.
So good stuff. So as
Thank
we close out, and I like to leave and end with the audience with three things before we go. If there's anything that if they take away from this podcast, if they don't take anything else, what would be three things you would want to leave us with before we wrap up today?
Oh, that's great. The first one, um, learn that it's okay not to be perfect. You are your own unique person, and you will fall exactly where you're supposed to be. You got to believe that. You got to believe if this is something I want to do and this is how I see myself, it's all about you, and you have to believe in that. I will say that it does not have to be perfect, nor do you have to be perfect. Two, I would say take your mental health and well being seriously. I am one of the biggest perfectionists. I've said that several times, and the reason I keep bringing that up is because that has impacted my mental health and my well-being so much that now that I'm kind of in a different zone, I'm in a different energy, that I tell people all the time, whether it is your exercise, whether you take a vacation, whether you just take minutes out of your morning to just be with yourself, take all of that seriously, because all that running and going back and forth and trying to juggle so many things, it all lands on you. And usually we crash, right? We usually crash and shut down. And why not take that seriously? It's okay for us to get therapists. It's okay for us to have counselors. It's okay to go talk to somebody. That doesn't mean you're weak, but that's what I've had to learn over the last couple of years, that I'm not, for as smart as I am and for as much as I do, I don't know everything. And sometimes it's good to get in front of someone and say, I am feeling like this. I need your help. So I will say that never take your mental health and well-being for granted. And the last, don't sleep on your dreams. If it's something out there that you really want to do, go for it. Everyone and everything else and their expectations of you will be just fine. Do not sleep on your dreams. Look at this world and how much people are doing and how many creative things have come out. Somebody created TikTok, somebody created Instagram, somebody created Zoom. These are dreams that people had and they put it into action. Whatever it is, don't sleep on it, do it. And I, my whole thing for myself is I never want to be sitting on my porch, because I will, as an old woman, rocking back and forth and wishing I had done something differently. I want to get there and be like, and tell everybody, let me tell you what I did when I was your age. Let me tell you what I did here and here. That's where I want to be. No regrets, no wishing. I did it all. So that's what I would say.
Brilliant. Thank you. And before we go, tell us how to find you. Give us your social medias, your websites, and then eventually tell us how we can find your podcast. But give us your social media so we can find you, look you up, so we can get ready to get styled virtually. And then when we start to go back outside next year, we're going to have to change up our whole routine and style. So tell us how to find you.
Firstly, my website is FeliciaBittle.com. That should be easy. My Instagram is Styling by Fab. Um, so people don't know this, but Fab is actually my initials, Felicia and Bittle. So that's where Fab comes from. Our podcast, we are rolling that out next week. officially on our new platform, and you'll be able to see that via Instagram Live and also Facebook Live. It was streamed to those particular platforms as well.
Very good. Are you guys going to be, this one question on the podcast, are you guys just going to be audio or are you going to do video as well?
Oh, we're definitely doing video.
Okay.
We're doing video. I feel the same way about video that you do. I feel like it builds a rapport, because in a perfect world, me and the other stylists will be sitting on the couch together, maybe with a cup of coffee or some tea, and like being in each other's face. But we like to be virtual. And I think people engage more when they're able to see you, your expressions. So it will
Excellent.
absolutely be virtual.
Well, let me clarify. Are you going to release it on video as well?
I
Like on
am going to
YouTube?
release it on video
Got it.
too.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So we'll have to make sure
Thank you.
we look you up on YouTube, or making sure that I
That's what we
subscribe to the channel. Okay.
That's right.
I'm trying to get some style tips going into next year.
Yeah, and you're helping me because this podcast life is new.
It is, but it's fun though, and I think
Okay.
you guys enjoy it. I think you'll be naturally good at it, and so I definitely know I need to tune in. I'm an accessory guy, so I like accessories. So whether it's
But you rock
hats,
it so well. I love you in your scullies and your scarves. I'd be like, oh, that is Joe's look. Yeah, I
man,
love
listen, it's just cold out here. It's what 20 degrees. It's 20 degrees right now, and it's snowing. So yeah, I'm just trying to stay warm.
it. And you're about to go run too, right?
Well, I'm gonna let it get up to at least 30, 32.
Okay.
That's my threshold. So that's why.
My threshold is like 38. I need it to be sitting
Yeah.
at 38. I can't.
But I could run in 32 and when I was in Charlotte, because it's more humid. Out here it's dry air, so it hits a little different. So
You're
so
right.
listen.
That's a good point.
Well, good stuff. Well, listen, as we wrap up, Felicia, first I want to thank you for joining us today. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm a big I love clothes, fashion, sneakers. So I can talk about this all day, but I really want to thank you for joining us. Looking forward to the continued success and also tuning into your podcast. And to the audience, I hope you enjoy this episode. If you're needing of a stylist, fashion consultant, check out Felicia Bittle at Fabstyles, and she can hook you guys up and get you ready virtually or in person. So with that being said, Felicia, thank you, and hope everyone enjoyed the episode.
Thank you, Joe.